Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Dominic and I'd like to welcome you all to another episode of Spotlight Game of Thrones, the series in which we take a look at some of the characters who feature in the A Song of Ice and Fire novels but are yet to be seen on the hit HBO show. So if you love Game of Thrones and want to know more about the world and its characters outside of the TV show, you've come to the right place. In today's show we'll be continuing our look at the Targaryen dynasty. Last time we examined King Aenys, the firstborn son of Aegon the Conqueror, whose indecisiveness eventually led to his downfall. This time around we'll be taking a look at his younger brother and the man who replaced him, Maegor Targaryen, first of his name, perhaps better known to those throughout the Seven Kingdoms as Maegor the Cruel. Now, just to quickly touch on last week, Maegor's older brother, the previous king Aenys Targaryen, passed away on Dragonstone after supposedly succumbing to a stress-related illness. Now, at the time, Maegor was living in exile in the free city of Pentos after having taken a second wife in secret, further exacerbating the relationship between the crown and the faith. Upon the death of King Aenys, Maegor's mother, the Dowager Queen Visenya, flew to Pentos atop her dragon and brought her son Maegor back with her in order to seat him on the Iron Throne. Now, this went against the laws of inheritance as Aenys had a son, Aegon, who in truth should have been the rightful successor to the throne. However, when Grand Maester Garwin protested this very fact at Maegor's coronation, he was beheaded by the newly appointed king. This was one of 3 Grand Maesters Maegor would have executed during his reign. After this, there would be no others brave enough to protest his ascension. Now, before we get into Maegor's reign such as it was, let's take a brief look at the years preceding it. Maegor was the second son of Aegon the Conqueror, born to Visenya, one of Aegon's sister wives. Of Aegon's 2 wives, Visenya was the one whom he married out of obligation rather than affection. As a boy, Maegor was an accomplished warrior. When he was only 13 years old, he defeated proven knights in a melee, and by the age of 16, he managed to unhorse 3 members of the King's Guard in a joust and would go on to win the melee. He was knighted by his father, Aegon the Conqueror, for this feat and became the youngest knight in the realm at that time. After the death of his father, Maegor's elder brother Aenys eventually assumed the throne, and even though the ancestral Valyrian steel sword Blackfire belonged to Aenys by right, he forfeited it to Maegor, proclaiming the younger of the siblings to be the better warrior of the two and announcing to his court that they would rule together. Maegor also inherited his father's dragon Balerion, the Black Dread, despite being the younger sibling. It was the dragon that he had most wanted for himself, as he thought all others unworthy. In the first year of his brother's reign, there were many rebellions throughout the realm. One of these took place in the Vale, where Jonos Arryn rose up against his own kin. Maegor personally thwarted the rebellion attempt by flying to the Eyrie on the back of Balerion and hanging Jonos and his followers. For this act, he was named as his brother's Hand of the King. Maegor's mother, the Dowager Queen Visenya, proposed that Maegor wed his brother's eldest daughter Rhaena. However, this intention of further incest outraged the faith, and Maegor was instead made to marry Lady Cersei Hightower, niece of the High Septon. Maegor did take a second wife, Lady Alice Harroway, in secret. However, when this was discovered, it was considered an affront to the faith, and Maegor's brother King Aenys was forced to exile Maegor from Westeros. When Aenys died, Maegor returned at the behest of his mother and sat the Iron Throne in the year 42 AC. Maegor put aside the ornate golden crown his brother had fashioned and instead wore the simple circlet of Valyrian steel that his father had worn. Among Maegor's first acts as king was to take his brother's wife Alyssa Velaryon as hostage on Dragonstone, along with her young children Jaehaerys and Alysanne. He also kept her son Prince Viserys as his squire in order to ensure Alyssa's cooperation. Alyssa's eldest son, Prince Aegon, was in fact the rightful king of Westeros, and so Maegor made these strategic moves in hopes of quelling any notions of rebellion. He sent ravens out into the world declaring himself to be the new king and stating that any who defied him would suffer a traitor's death. Now, during the rule of his brother Aenys, the faith had taken up arms and fortified themselves within the Sept of Remembrance. Maegor, having no love lost for the faith, flew his dragon Balerion to the top of Visenya's hill, where he planted the Targaryen standard and rallied men to his cause. Thousands came. His mother Visenya then challenged any who denied Maegor's right to rule to prove themselves in combat. The captain of the Warrior's Sons, a militarized branch of the faith, accepted the challenge. This man's name was Sir Daemon Morrigan, and he would thereafter be known as Daemon the Devout. And so a trial of 7 was held, in which Daemon and 6 of his Warrior's Sons would compete in a battle to the death against the king and 6 of his champions. At the end of it, King Maegor was the last man standing and the only one left alive, but even in his victory he suffered a blow to the head that rendered rendered him comatose for 30 days. Maegor's mother surrendered her son to the care of a Pentoshi woman called Tiana, whom had been Maegor's lover during his time in exile, and under her treatment he at last woke up. Maegor had wasted no time in striking another blow against his staunch enemies, the Faith, and on the very day he awoke, he climbed atop the back of his dragon Balerion and flew to the Sept of Remembrance, where hundreds of the warriors' sons had gathered for their morning prayers. Without warning, he unleashed the fire of his dragon down upon the Sept, roasting the men inside alive and ordering his archers and spearmen to cut down those who attempted to flee. It is said that the screams of the burning and dying men echoed throughout the city, and a cloud of death hung over King's Landing for 7 days. This was only the start of hostilities between the Crown and the Faith, as things looked set to escalate drastically. A battle took place at Stonebridge, wherein the poor fellows fell in droves, and the Manda, the largest river in the Reach, ran red with blood for 20 leagues. Because of this, the bridge and its castle became known as Bitterbridge. Another battle took place, this one even larger than the one at Stonebridge, where the king beat back 13,000 poor fellows as well as hundreds of knights from the warriors' sons and other rebel lords at the Green Fork of the Blackwater. It was a savage battle that lasted until nightfall, and although the rebel host was great, they could not withstand the flames of Balerion the Black Dread. Maegor made significant attempts to disarm the Faith, instituting laws that forbade holy men from carrying arms and appointing a new, far more accommodating High Septon after the mysterious death of the previous one, but all of these things failed to dissuade his opponents. Amid all of the chaos, Maegor went through a series of wives in an attempt to produce an heir, but of those who weren't barren, he could only conceive misshapen stillborn monstrosities, who were birthed eyeless, limbless, or having parts of man and woman both. His first wife, Lady Cersei of House Hightower, was, if you remember, the niece of the previous High Septon, but she died after succumbing to a sudden illness. However, many believe the king ordered her dead. His second wife, Alice of House Hightower, the lady for whom his secret marriage saw him exiled by his brother, birthed him his first monstrosity, and because of this, Maegor executed her midwives, scepters, and the Grand Maester. Tiana, the Pentoshi lady who had revived Maegor from his coma, convinced the king that the stillborn was the product of the Queen's infidelity, and as such Maegor had Queen Alice killed along with her companions, her father who was also his hand, and every Harroway or Harroway kinsman in Westeros, leading to the extinction of the house. The Pentoshi woman Tiana, also known as Tiana of the Tower, then became Maegor's third bride, and she was believed to have practiced sorcery and alchemy. She became the mistress of whispers in the king's council, but she proved to be just as barren as the rest. When Tiana admitted to the king that she had poisoned his other brides, resulting in the births of monstrosities, Maegor killed her himself, using his father's sword Blackfire to cut out her heart, which he then threw to his dogs. Maegor then took 3 women to wife at once. All of these women were of proven fertility, and they would come to be known as the Black Brides. There was Eleanor of House Costain, the youngest of the Black Brides at 19 years old, but even at such a young age, she had already given her husband Sir Theo Bolling 3 children. Sir Theo was arrested by the Kingsguard and executed for conspiracy to commit treason. Eleanor eventually became pregnant by Maegor, but she too gave birth to a stillborn abomination, this one said to be born with no eyes and small wings. She was one of the 2 wives to survive the king. The next of the Black Brides was Rhaena Targaryen herself. If you remember, it was Rhaena whom Maegor's mother Visenya first proposed that he marry back when Ennis was still king. Rhaena was Ennis's eldest daughter, and she was married to her brother and Ennis's eldest son, the rightful heir Aegon, with whom she had 2 twin daughters. When her husband Aegon rose up against his uncle Maegor, however, he and his dragon Quicksilver were both killed by the king atop Balerion in a conflict known as the Battle Beneath the God's Eye, and even though Rhaena tried to hide, when her daughters had been found, she had no choice but to marry Maegor in an effort to keep them safe. She too survived the king. The final of the Black Brides was Lady Jean of House Westerling, whose husband Lord Alyn Tarbeck had died in the Battle Beneath the God's Eye. She too birthed a stillborn monster and did not long survive afterwards. For too long, the king's reign of terror went relatively unhindered. Yes, his reign saw the expansion and construction of the Red Keep, but even in this monumental achievement, Maegor managed to work in his bloodlust, for after the castle had been finished, Maegor guested all of the architects and stonemasons who had helped build it to a lavish feast that lasted for 3 days, only to then have them all killed, so as to keep all the secrets of the tunnels and passages of what would come to be known as Maegor's Holdfast as a secret only for himself. This understandably made it difficult for Maegor to hire builders Jaehaerys to erect his planned dragon pit on the hill of Rhaenys, where the Sept of Remembrance had once stood. He had to resort to using prisoners from the dungeons under the supervision of foreign builders. Maegor also brought back the skulls of over 2,000 people as trophies after one of his war campaigns, and while he claimed they were the skulls of outlawed warriors' sons and poor fellows, many thought that they were more likely the heads of small folk whom he had killed for nothing more than sport. When Maegor's mother, the Dowager Queen Visenya, died, the widow of his brother, Queen Alyssa, managed to escape from Dragonstone with her children as well as with the Dark Sister, Visenya's Valyrian steel sword. Because of this, Prince Viserys, Alyssa's next eldest son after Aegon, who had been Maegor's squire and hostage, was killed. This left only Ennis's youngest child, Jaehaerys, as rightful heir to the throne. Eventually though, enough was enough and people began to turn against Maegor en masse. Lord Daemon Velaryon, Admiral of the King's Fleet, turned against Maegor, and when he did, a great many of the great houses joined him. The young Prince Jaehaerys also managed to gain the support of the Lord of Storm's End, whom he named the Hand of the King, and one of Maegor's black brides, Rhaena Targaryen, even managed to flee aboard her dragon Dreamfire, stealing the king's sword Blackfire as she went to join her brother's cause. Even 2 members of the Kingsguard abandoned Maegor, instead giving their allegiance to Jaehaerys. When Maegor called all of his loyal lords to him, only a few minor lords of the Crownlands came, and eventually he dismissed them so that he could brood alone in his throne room. Early the next morning, King Maegor Targaryen, first of his name, was found dead on the throne, his robes red with blood and his arms slashed open by the barbs of the Iron Throne, and so ended the reign of Maegor the Cruel. It's not entirely sure exactly how Maegor died. Some say that it was a member of his Kingsguard, others say that it was one of the stonemasons he had attempted to kill who had secretly hidden in one of the castle's many tunnels, but the most likely answer is that rather than suffer defeat at the hands of his enemies, Maegor Targaryen took his own life. Governance of the realm would now pass over to the rightful heir, the young Prince Jaehaerys, and luckily for the Seven Kingdoms, this guy would turn out to be pretty incredible. Thank you all for watching this 3rd episode in the 2nd season of Spotlight Game of Thrones. Don't forget you can find the entire 1st season on the channel, and be sure to check out episodes 1 and 2 of this season. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, as this stuff really does take a lot of time and effort to put together, and your support really does help the channel out. And also consider supporting me by subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot guys, and I'll see you again soon.